So, if you're paying any attention to the news, you're hearing something about real estate, commissions, lawsuits, things like that. And it's probably a little confusing. We're seeing a lot of misinformation, even just in major headlines that are very misleading and just flat out incorrect. So, today I want to share with you two things that are changing due to this lawsuit and two things that are not. I'm Erica Carlson with Bricks Real Estate. It's a boutique brokerage out of the Twin Cities. I show real estate, both the buying and selling side in the Twin Cities and surrounding areas. I make these educational videos about real estate, and if you learn something new, I'd love for you to join my growing community, whether you're finding this on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. I hope you will join us. If you're thinking about making a move, there's a link provided in the paragraph. If you click the first option, you can set up a time for us to talk. Of course, pick a time that is most convenient for you. So to get started, we are going to look at the market data first, and then we will talk more about how the lawsuit is affecting you, and frankly, me too. At Wright County data, but we're going to use Hennepin County like we always do to try to bring clarity to what is happening in our local market center. And I just want to throw it out there that, even looking at it this way is pretty broad. So if you ever do want particular information, remember you can sign up for the market report in my link, or you can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about any buying and selling questions you have, or just like how things are working. I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how real estate works. So jumping right in, this is going to be a quick one. 470 total properties we have in Wright County, which is interesting. That's the same number we had last week. Couple less houses actually for sale, because when I put the contingencies in there, we're at 408, and it was 412 last week. So you can just see on my screen, and this is the column I'm looking at right now, is the actives are, they've gone up a little bit over time. It's nothing dramatic or too exciting, but it's, pretty stagnant on that field. Pending data went up, right? Because we had 228 last week and we moved up to 240. And as I pull the column back, you can see that number is far more significant than it's been in the recent past. And it's what we expect. Again, people went under, contract in January, maybe sometime in February, and so they're closing. Like, we do expect that number to kind of just continue to go up. I mean, it's nothing dramatic, obviously. Closings also went up. Again, that really coincides with pending data. It always does. We're at 142. Again, that number is much higher than what it was before. You can see the numbers are significantly lower. It takes until December 20th before the number is higher than where we're currently at. And then, my favorite data, which I realize is super nerdy of me to say that out loud, but it is. It's my favorite data because it gives us an idea of how things are really moving and shaking out there. 2.4 showings per week per listing is what we're seeing in Wright County. So in English, that means that the average seller, the person who has their house on the market, is getting about 2, maybe 3 showings a week. That isn't necessarily their first week putting it on the market. That's probably a little bit over time because you're averaging things together, and it's an entire county. And, I did put 250 to 500K in there. So again, if your price point is higher than that, you're going to want to talk to your agent and find out like what, is working in that particular market center, because waterfront, townhouses, this side of town, that side of town, all these things are making an impact on how many buyers are out there shopping for that particular type of property. When we compare that to Hennepin, they got 5.2, so 5 showings per week per listing and 250 to 500. It was significantly faster last week. We know we've had snow the last 2 days. There's no doubt in my mind that slowed people down. People that are out there shopping went, yeah, we don't need to go out today. I know I had to cancel showings. These things definitely impact. It'll be interesting to see if next week it pops back up into the 7s for Hennepin, or if maybe there was just a little burst of energy and those people went under contract. I don't know. We're not tracking Hennepin data, so it is what it is. I do think it's interesting that days on market this week had a nice little scoot up. You know, we had 35 last week and then it went down to 26. Median went from 21 to 15. So things are moving faster. If you read my Smart Seller book, and that is, you can download it for free on my website, iheartmplsminneapolishomes.com. You can download a free copy of the Smart Seller Guide. It will tell you, this is just historical data. The last 2 weeks of March, the 2 first weeks of April are the best time to sell a house in general, right? Weather dictates things, economy dictates things. I mean, there's other things that influence, but as a general rule of thumb, that's the time, if you can, to get your house on the market. That's the time where we have the most people out shopping. I'm sure there's completely some logic towards why it's those 4 weeks and not a different 4 weeks, but it, you know, that's just what it is. So I hope that helps somebody out there. If again, you want data for your own particular area or your particular type of property, because maybe you have a duplex or you have a townhouse or a condo, I mean, all of these differences. And I'm not just focusing on single family. I guess I shouldn't have said it that way. I don't want you to make sense of it that way, but I don't count multifamily in, and we're not, you know, again, we kind of cap our data at 500K just to kind of get some general numbers. So I hope that's helpful. So without further ado, it's important for me to give you correct information. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a broker. I'm passing on information I understand to be true. And as I shared with you before, I have 2 things that are changing and 2 things that are not changing. And at the beginning part here, I'm going to definitely hit on the most important thing. So just in case you don't end up making it to the end, I want to make sure you get this very important information. I know it's been blasted all over the news that there's been this major settlement, and it's very confusing how it might impact us here in Minnesota. These are national changes, but before we begin, I need to say to you clearly that these have not been solidified. The court has not completely firmed this up. It's probably still going to work out this way, which is why I'm going to go ahead with this video today. However, it is not solid. So if anything changes, I will definitely be the one to tell you that, and you are always welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions about this or anything else real estate related. So let's talk about the most important thing, the biggest change that's going to happen, and assuming this is all you know, solidified, that stamped is what I'm trying to show you, the stamp of approval is put on it, then what you need to understand is that going forward, starting around mid-July, I don't have an exact date for you, you will no longer be able to look at houses without having a signed agreement with the real estate agent that is showing you the house. Here's something that is not changing. The buyer and the agent are going to know up front how the compensation model works for that particular agent. Now that could be a flat fee, some sort of retainer, or some sort of percentage of the price of the house, excuse me. So again, that is something that is going to be determined up front, and that shouldn't be new, but that may sound like new information to you, which leads me to number 3. Our next item, this again is something that is changing. There's again only 2 items that are changing. The second one is that we are no longer advertising on the MLS the compensation to the buyer's agent. So I'm going into my 7th year in this career, and I could always see on the MLS how much the payout from the seller would be to the buyer's agent. When I was the listing agent, I would talk to my sellers. What is the payout to the buyer's agent? Again, it doesn't mean there won't be compensation, but it cannot be advertised directly on the MLS. And so it can be shared in other formats, a text, a different program. And if you're not familiar with what the MLS is, it's the multiple listing service. This is the main data hub for all the properties. You know, it kind of doesn't matter where you are in the United States. Everybody has these MLSs. There's multiple MLSs, just to be clear about that. But again, we can talk about it. We just can't talk about it inside the MLS. So that brings us to our 4th thing that is not changing. Sellers have the right to advertise closing cost compensation. These funds can be used for the buyer's broker. They could be used for other buyers' closing costs. So that hasn't gone away. So again, the biggest thing, the biggest change here is probably that the buyer's agent is going to be asking you going up front, going to need to ask you to sign this agreement that we are working together before showing any houses. We think that this is a positive change in our industry. It takes away any sort of mystery about things. This is kind of a side note, but if you ever had an agent that was showing you a house, but you never signed an agreement, that was not your agent. You were not their client. And so they couldn't talk to you about negotiation in a true sense of giving you those full fiduciary duties that come with the rights when we are your true agent and you are our true client. So we really do see this as a positive of, showing that transparency and understanding that relationship so much earlier in the process than what may have been happening. For sellers, this probably just hasn't changed as much for them because it's just kind of like taking away that one tab on the MLS. Again, they can still offer it. It's just not going to be advertised on that particular platform that has been removed through the ramifications of this lawsuit. So as you can see, none of these things I'm talking about today are earth-shattering. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them for you. If I don't know the answer, I will definitely do my best to get you any answers I can, and I do hope that this has cleared up some things for you. If you made it to the end of my video, I absolutely appreciate you, and hopefully I'll see you again next Wednesday. Have a great week.